The obsidian citadel hung in space like a dark jewel, reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. It was the heart of galactic civilization, the seat of power that had ruled the stars for longer than most species could remember. Inside its gleaming halls, the Galactic Council gathered for what they believed would be a routine meeting. 12 species sat in the Great Chamber, each representing civilizations that had mastered space travel when Earth's dominant life forms were still crawling in oceans. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, carved from a single asteroid and hollowed out over centuries. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing maps of controlled space that stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Archon Velthor stood at the center podium, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled representatives. His species, the Korthian, had led the council for the last 2,000 years. They were tall, with crystalline skin that refracted light into rainbow patterns. When Velthor spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "We gather today to address a matter of increasing concern," he began. "The species known as humans have violated quarantine protocols." A murmur ran through the chamber. Quarantine violations were rare but not unprecedented. Young species often tested boundaries before learning their place in the galactic order. "How many systems have they contaminated?" asked Representative Shrix, a being composed of floating metallic spheres that somehow maintained consciousness. 17, Velthor replied. "They have established colonies without authorization, refused all communication attempts, and most troubling of all, they have reverse-engineered technology from one of our derelict survey vessels." This caused more concerned murmuring. The technology gap between the Council and primitive species was meant to be insurmountable. It was the foundation of Council authority. If a species could adapt Council technology, it suggested a dangerous level of ingenuity. "What do we know of these humans?" asked Ambassador Tyleth, a serpentine creature whose species had ruled a sector before joining the Council 5 millennia ago. Velthor activated a holographic display. Images of humans appeared, bipedal creatures that looked unremarkable by galactic standards. 2 arms, 2 legs, single head. They were actually rather plain compared to the diversity of Council species. They are carbon-based, oxygen-breathing mammals from a world they call Earth. They achieved nuclear fission approximately 180 of their years ago. They reached their moon shortly after. Their faster-than-light capability emerged only 30 years ago, using crude jump drive technology that our analysts believe they developed independently. Independently, Shrix's spheres rotated with what might have been surprise. "That is unusual." "Indeed," Velthor agreed. "Most species acquire FTL through contact with more advanced civilizations. These humans appear to have stumbled upon it through trial and error. Their drives are inefficient and dangerous but functional. And their military capability?" This question came from War Master Dronthas, a towering insectoid whose species had once resisted Council authority before being brought to heel 3,000 years ago. "Minimal," Velthor said dismissively. "They fight among themselves constantly. Their history is an endless cycle of tribal conflicts. They have no unified government, merely a loose collection of competing factions that cooperate occasionally. Their weapons are primarily kinetic projectiles and primitive explosives. They have no shield technology, no plasma weapons, no dimensional capabilities." The relief in the chamber was palpable. A species with Council-level technology would have been a genuine threat. But primitive kinetic weapons against Council shields? It would be like throwing stones at a fortress. "Then this is a simple enforcement matter," Tyleth said. "We have handled dozens of such cases." "Precisely," Velthor agreed. "I propose we follow standard protocol. The 47th Punitive Fleet will be dispatched to human space. They will deliver our ultimatum and remove human presence from all unauthorized worlds. If the humans resist, their colonies will be eliminated, and Earth will be placed under permanent occupation with a Council garrison to ensure compliance." "The 47th Fleet seems excessive for such a primitive species," noted Representative Mira, whose gossamer wings fluttered with concern. Her species valued mercy, even toward lesser beings. "Better to overwhelm than to encourage false hope," Velthor replied. "A show of absolute force will make the lesson clear. These humans will learn what every species must learn. The Council's authority is absolute and resistance is futile." The vote was called. 12 hands, claws, tentacles, and appendages rose in approval. The decision was unanimous. The council had spoken as it had spoken 100 times before to 100 different species. The humans would be brought to heel. Far from the obsidian citadel on the human colony of New Hebrides, Commander Sarah Chen sat in her cramped office reviewing supply manifest when her communications officer burst through the door. "Commander, we're receiving a tight beam transmission from an unknown source. It's encrypted with patterns that match Viren merchant codes." Chen looked up sharply. The Varens were a client species of the Council, merchant traders who moved between systems carrying goods and information. They were generally harmless, kept on a tight leash by Council oversight. "Put it through," she ordered. The message was brief and the image quality poor, as if the sender was afraid of being traced. A Varan appeared on the screen, its 6 eyes darting nervously. When it spoke, its translator rendered the words in flat English. "Human Commander, this message risks my life and my clan's future. I send it because what the Council plans is wrong. A fleet comes for you, not a small force but a punitive fleet. They mean to destroy your colonies and enslave your homeworld. You have perhaps 2 of your months before they arrive at your outer systems. Prepare or perish." The transmission ended abruptly. Chen stared at the blank screen for a long moment, then activated her emergency protocols. Within minutes, she had the colony's defense coordinator and the local fleet commander in her office. "Could be a hoax," suggested Captain Morrison, who commanded the 3 warships assigned to New Hebrides defense. "Why would an alien risk itself to warn us?" "Because maybe not everyone in the galaxy loves being under the Council's boot," Chen replied. She had studied enough history to know that empires always had those who chafed under their rule. "I'm sending this up the chain to Earth Admiralty. In the meantime, we fortify what we can and prepare evacuation protocols." "Evacuation?" Morrison looked skeptical. "Where would 2 million colonists go?" "Into the deep black if necessary," Chen said grimly. "Better scattered and alive than united and dead." The warning spread through human space like wildfire. On Earth, in the halls of the fragmented human government, the message caused chaos. Some dismissed it as propaganda. Others wanted to immediately surrender to avoid conflict. But in the deep bunkers beneath the Admiralty building, old soldiers who remembered humanity's bloody history looked at each other and made a different choice. "If they're coming," said Admiral James Cortez, the Earth Defense Fleet commander, "we make them regret it." He activated protocols that had been prepared for this exact scenario. Project Ragnarok began its final phase. In shipyards across human space, construction shifted to wartime production. Weapons that had been designed but never built were rushed into manufacturing. Colonies began fortifying, preparing for siege warfare. And on the edges of human space, at a small listening post called Proxima Station, Commander Marcus Webb received his orders and prepared for humanity's first contact with galactic power. He was a student of ancient history, and he remembered stories of other small outposts that had faced impossible odds. He thought of the Alamo, of Thermopylae, of Bastonia, places where men and women stood against overwhelming force not because they could win, but because someone had to stand. The Council was coming, confident in their superiority and certain of their victory. They had declared war on humanity, unaware that they were about to learn a hard lesson that had been taught to countless tyrants throughout human history. Some species surrender when facing overwhelming odds. Humans dig in and sharpen their knives. The 47th Punitive Fleet emerged from dimensional fold space, with the precision that came from 10,000 years of military excellence. 60 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with energy shields that bent light around them. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, sleek and deadly, powered by zero-point reactors that could run for centuries without refueling. At the center of the formation, Fleet Master Korvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dawn. He was Korthian like Archon Velthor, and he carried himself with the same absolute confidence. In his 300 years of service, he had never faced a foe that could truly threaten Council supremacy. "Status report," he commanded. "All vessels accounted for, Fleetmaster," his tactical officer replied. "We have arrived at the designated coordinates. Scanning local space now. I am detecting a small station ahead, approximately 12 million kilometers distant. Primitive design, metal hull with basic shielding. I detect 3 small warships nearby, also primitive construction." Korvax allowed himself a small expression of satisfaction. "So they have come to meet us." Perhaps they will be reasonable after all. Open a communication channel on all frequencies. The channel opened with a burst of static. Human communication technology was crude, lacking the quantum entanglement that allowed instant council communication across any distance. "Attention, human vessels," Korvax began, his words translated into human languages by the fleet's advanced computers. "This is Fleetmaster Korvax of the Galactic Council 47th Punitive Fleet. You have violated Council law by expanding beyond your authorized quarantine zone. By unanimous decision of the Council, you are commanded to immediately cease all colonial operations and withdraw all human presence to your home system of Sol. You have 1 of your hours to begin compliance procedures. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of all human assets and the military occupation of your homeworld." He waited, confident in the response. They always complied at this stage. The sight of a council fleet was enough to break most species' will to resist. Proxima Station hung in the black of space, a rough cylinder of metal and ceramic composites. It had been built quickly in the human way, prioritizing function over beauty. It housed 3,000 personnel and served as humanity's furthest military outpost. On the bridge, Commander Marcus Webb listened to the alien ultimatum with a grim expression. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Webb was 53, a career military officer who had served in 3 different human conflicts before volunteering for deep space duty. He had gray in his hair and scars on his face from a boarding action during the corporate wars. He was not a man given to flowery speeches. "Communications, open a channel to the alien fleet," he said quietly. "Channel open, sir." Webb leaned forward in his chair. He thought about all the things he could say, all the diplomatic words he could use. Then he thought about his crew, about the colonies behind them, about Earth. He thought about humanity's history of defiance in the face of impossible odds. "Nuts," he said simply, and cut the channel. His crew stared at him for a moment, then someone started laughing. It spread through the bridge, not from humor, but from the release of tension. They all knew what came next. "All hands to battle stations," Webb ordered. "Power up all weapon systems. Send a transmission to Earth. First contact established with hostile alien force. We are engaging. For humanity." On the Eternal Dawn, Korvax stared at the translation of the human response. "Nuts?" he said, confused. His tactical computer provided context, a historical human military response indicating defiance and refusal to surrender. "They refuse?" His tactical officer sounded equally confused. "But Fleetmaster, they have 3 small vessels against our 60. Their weapons are primitive. Do they not understand their situation?" Korvax felt the first stirring of something he had not experienced in decades. It might have been respect or might have been irritation. Perhaps they need a demonstration. "Target their station's shield generators. Use minimum power. We will disable them and—" The sensors screamed a warning. Proxima Station had fired. Kinetic rounds, hundreds of them, streaked through space. They were simple weapons, just metal slugs accelerated to enormous velocities by electromagnetic rails. Crude but effective if they hit. The Council shields caught them easily, energy barriers vaporizing the projectiles before they could touch hull. "Return fire," Korvax commanded. "Disable only. We will teach them the futility of resistance." The Council fleet opened fire with plasma lances, beams of contained stellar fire that could cut through normal matter like it was paper. They targeted Proxima Station's engines and weapons ports, intending to cripple but not destroy. The station took the hits, armor boiling away, atmosphere venting from breaches. But it kept firing. The 3 human warships, small things barely larger than Council patrol craft, charged forward at full acceleration. "What are they doing?" the tactical officer asked, bewildered. Korvax watched as the human ships barreled toward his fleet. They were taking fire, shields failing, hulls breaching, but they kept coming. One of them exploded, overwhelmed by plasma fire. The other 2 kept coming. "They're ramming," someone shouted. One human ship slammed into a Council destroyer. The explosion was spectacular, destroying both vessels. The other human ship, trailing fire and debris, crashed into a frigate. Both ships went silent, tumbling through space. Korvax stood frozen. In his 3 centuries of service, he had never seen a species deliberately sacrifice their vessels. It was wasteful, inefficient, illogical. "Fleetmaster, the station is activating emergency thrusters. It's moving." Proxima Station, massive and damaged, its hull glowing from internal fires, began accelerating. Not away from the fleet, but toward it. Korvac suddenly understood what the humans were doing. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Concentrate fire on that station. Plasma lances converged on Proxima Station. Its armor blackened and melted. Whole sections exploded. But it was already too close, moving too fast. 3,000 humans rode their dying station toward the Council fleet. The station impacted the Eternal Dawn's largest escort, a heavy cruiser. The explosion lit up space like a small star. When the light faded, both the station and the cruiser were gone, reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Korvac stood on his bridge, which was now missing several crew members who had been blown into space by the shock wave. Damage alarms wailed. The fleet was intact except for 3 vessels lost, but something felt wrong. "Send a transmission to all human colonies in range," he said, his voice hard. "They wish to see our power? We will show them." The 47th Punitive Fleet moved to the nearest human colony world, a place called New Hebrides. They did not land or invade. They simply opened fire from orbit. Plasma lances scoured the surface, turning cities into glass, boiling oceans into steam. 2 million humans died in 6 hours. Korvac ordered the destruction recorded and transmitted across human space on all frequencies. Let them see what happened to those who defied the Council. Let them understand the price of resistance. Then the fleet proceeded to 2 more colonies, smaller ones, and repeated the process. A demonstration of overwhelming force, just as the Council had done to dozens of species before. But as the 47th Punitive Fleet moved deeper into human space, Fleetmaster Korvac received reports that troubled him. The humans were not surrendering. Instead, every colony was broadcasting messages of defiance. More human ships were appearing, seemingly from nowhere, harassing his fleet with hit-and-run attacks. And on Earth, something was happening. His long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures, construction on a scale he had never seen. The entire human homeworld was mobilizing for war. "Fleetmaster," his intelligence officer reported, "we're intercepting human communications. They appear to be unifying their factions. All internal conflicts have ceased. They're calling it Total War Protocol." Korvac pulled up the translation of human communications. What he read disturbed him. The humans were not demoralized by the destruction of their colonies. They were enraged. Every message he read spoke of revenge, of making the invaders pay, of fighting to the last human if necessary. He thought of the station that had deliberately crashed into his escort. He thought of the ships that had rammed his fleet without hesitation. For the first time in his long career, Fleetmaster Korvac felt a small, cold seed of doubt plant itself in his mind. These humans fought like no species he had encountered. They fought with a desperation and ferocity that seemed almost suicidal. The Council had expected a quick enforcement action. A show of force, a surrender, and peace restored. Instead, they had kicked over a nest of something dangerous. Something that did not break when struck, but instead struck back harder. Korvac sent a message to the Council Citadel. First contact completed. Human resistance is unexpectedly fierce. Colonies pacified but full compliance not yet achieved. Requesting permission to continue operations. The response came back within hours. Permission granted. Use whatever force necessary to bring humans to heel. The Council's authority must be maintained. Korvac looked at his fleet, at the damage from a fight that should have been trivial, and wondered if force would be enough. Across human space, the message was spreading like wildfire. Proxima Station had made its stand. 3 months had passed since the destruction of Proxima Station, and Fleetmaster Korvac was beginning to understand that something was very wrong with this campaign. He stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, studying tactical displays that should not be possible. According to his ship's advanced sensors and strategic computers, there were more human warships in space now than there had been at the start of the war. Significantly more. "Report again," he commanded his intelligence officer, certain there must be an error. "Fleetmaster, our latest reconnaissance confirms the data. We have destroyed approximately 200 human vessels in the past 3 months. Current estimates put active human military ships at 500 and increasing." "That's impossible," Korvac said flatly. "We have blockaded their major shipyards. We have bombed their industrial centers. Where are these ships coming from?" The intelligence officer displayed a holographic map of human space. Red dots marked human ship construction sites. There were hundreds of them. "They're building everywhere, Fleetmaster. Not in traditional orbital shipyards like civilized species. but in small facilities scattered across dozens of worlds, asteroid mining stations that have been converted to produce hull sections, ice refineries making fuel. Even some of their agricultural colonies have retooled to produce components. Korvac stared at the map. This was not how warfare worked. Not how it had worked for 10,000 years. When the Council went to war, both sides targeted the major industrial centers and shipyards. Destroy those and you destroyed the enemy's ability to wage war. It was elegant, efficient, and civilized. The humans were not following the rules. And the quality of their vessels? He asked. Poor by our standards, Fleet Master. They are cramped, inefficient, and barely spaceworthy. Many appear to be assembled from prefabricated sections welded together in space. Some leak atmosphere. Some have malfunctioning systems. But they are functional and they are armed. Korvac studied one of the captured images of a human warship. It was ugly. A blocky assembly of metal plates and exposed systems. No elegant curves, no aesthetic considerations at all. It looked like it had been built in a hurry by people who cared only about function. How long does it take them to construct one of these vessels? He asked. Approximately 30 of their days, Fleet Master. Some of the smaller ones take less, 30 days. It took a Council shipyard 3 years to construct a proper warship, each one a masterpiece of engineering. But the humans were producing crude vessels in a month. The mathematics of attrition suddenly looked very different. Fleet Master, we have incoming vessels at the edge of sensor range. 53 human ships on intercept course. Only 53? Korvac allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They must be running low on ships. Battle formations. We will destroy them and continue our advance toward Earth. But the battle did not go as he expected. The human fleet approached in a loose formation, nothing like the precise tactical arrangements that Council doctrine prescribed. They came in fast, too fast, their drives pushed beyond safe limits. Several exploded from engine failure before reaching weapons range. The rest crashed into the Council fleet like a hammer. There was no elegant maneuvering, no careful positioning. The humans simply charged straight in, firing everything they had. Their kinetic weapons hammered Council shields. Their missiles, primitive chemical rockets, swarmed around Council vessels. They're not even trying to preserve their ships, his tactical officer shouted. It was true. The humans fought like every battle was their last. Ships with failing shields did not retreat to repair. They pushed forward, trying to get in close where Council weapon superiority mattered less. When their ammunition ran out, they used their ships as weapons, ramming any Council vessel they could reach. It was chaos. It was barbaric, and it was effective. By the time the last human ship was destroyed, Korvac had lost 5 vessels and 8 more were damaged. He had won technically, but at what cost? This was supposed to be a simple enforcement action, not a war of attrition. Bring us back to the rendezvous point, he ordered. We need to repair and resupply. Admiral Sarah Chen, who had been promoted after the destruction of New Hebrides, studied the battle reports with grim satisfaction. She was aboard the UHS Defiance, humanity's newest dreadnought, assembled in record time from sections built on 6 different colonies. We lost 48 ships, her tactical officer reported, but we took down 5 of theirs and damaged 8 more. A good trade, Chen said. The math was brutal but simple. Humanity could replace 48 ships in 2 weeks. The Council would need months to replace their losses, and they had no nearby shipyards. Every Council ship was precious. Every human ship was expendable. That was the secret the Council had not yet understood. They fought elegant wars where each vessel mattered, where losses were carefully minimized. Humanity fought total war, the kind of war where victory mattered more than cost. What's the status on Operation Anvil? She asked. Everything is in position, Admiral. We're just waiting for the Council fleet to move into the Arcturus Junction as predicted. Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. The Council thought in terms of direct confrontation, fleet against fleet. Humans thought in terms of ambush and trap. 3 days later, Fleet Master Korvac led his fleet through the Arcturus Junction, a region of space dense with asteroid fields and debris from ancient collisions. It was the fastest route to Earth, shaving weeks off the journey time. His scouts had cleared the route twice. The Council fleet was halfway through when the ambush was sprung. From the asteroid fields, from behind debris, from clouds of ice and rock, human ships appeared. Dozens of them had been waiting, powered down to avoid detection, their crews in cold sleep to minimize life support signatures. They had been there for weeks waiting for this exact moment. The Council fleet found itself surrounded in a debris field where their superior maneuverability meant nothing. Human ships came from all directions at once. At these close ranges, kinetic weapons were devastating. Mass drivers hurled slugs that punched through shields not designed for such close-range impact. Korvax tried to organize a defensive formation, but there was no room to maneuver. Council ships collided with asteroids trying to evade human fire. The elegant discipline that made Council fleets invincible in open space meant nothing in this chaos. "All ships, emergency jump," Korvax ordered. "Get us out of here!" But dimensional folding required precise calculations and time to charge. The humans gave them neither. Chen's ship, the Defiance, targeted the Eternal Dawn. Its main gun, a massive rail cannon that ran the length of the vessel, fired. The slug, little more than a dense metal rod, hit the Eternal Dawn's shields at a significant fraction of light speed. The shields held for a moment, then collapsed. The second shot hit the hull. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, alarms wailed. Korvax barked orders, trying to save his flagship. Then a human corvette, already crippled in venting atmosphere, slammed into the bridge section. The last thing Fleetmaster Korvax saw was a wall of metal rushing toward him. Then nothing. The Battle of Arcturus Junction lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the 47th Punitive Fleet was destroyed. 38 Council vessels drifted as wreckage. Another 15 had managed to escape, fleeing through emergency dimensional jumps that threw them randomly across space. The humans lost 70 ships and 20,000 personnel. It was their greatest loss of life in a single battle. It was also their greatest victory. In the Council Citadel, Archon Velthor watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. This should not be possible. The humans were primitive. They had crude technology and no military tradition beyond killing each other. Yet they had destroyed a punitive fleet. Not defeated, not damaged, but completely destroyed. How? He asked his advisors. How did they do this? They think differently than we do, one of his military strategists explained. We fight to win with minimal losses. They fight to win regardless of cost. We preserve our forces. They expend them freely. We fight with precision. They fight with overwhelming numbers and accept massive casualties. They're barbarians, Velthor said. Yes, the strategist agreed. But they're winning. Velthor stood and walked to the great windows of the Citadel, looking out at the stars. The Council had ruled for 10,000 years, maintaining peace through superior technology and military might. Now a species that still used projectile weapons was threatening that order. Deploy the 23rd, 16th, and 8th fleets, he commanded. This enforcement action is now a military campaign. We will commit whatever force is necessary to crush these humans. His advisors shifted uncomfortably. Archon, those 3 fleets represent nearly 20% of our total military strength. Our other borders will be vulnerable. Then our other clients had better remain obedient, Velthor snapped. I will not allow a primitive species to defy the Council. We will show them what happens when you challenge 10,000 years of galactic order. The message went out across Council space. 3 more fleets, nearly 200 warships, began the journey to human space. And on Earth, in countless shipyards and factories, humanity built more ships. Ugly, crude, expendable ships that kept coming no matter how many were destroyed. The war was escalating beyond anything the Council had anticipated. 2 years into the war, the galaxy was learning a truth that would reshape its understanding of conflict. Humanity did not break. The Council had committed 5 full fleets now, nearly a fifth of their total military strength. They had won dozens of battles, destroyed hundreds of human ships, and reduced multiple colonies to radioactive slag. By every metric of traditional warfare, humanity should have surrendered months ago. Instead, the war ground on. Admiral Chen stood in the Combat Information Center of the UHS Defiance, now serving as the flagship of Earth's home defense fleet. Around her, dozens of officers coordinated the movements of thousands of vessels across multiple star systems. The CIC was cramped and smelled of recycled air and coffee. It was nothing like the elegant Council command centers, but it worked. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting a large Council force entering the Sol system. Preliminary count is 75 capital ships plus escorts. Chen felt her stomach tighten. This was the moment they had been preparing for since the war began. The Council had finally decided to strike at Earth itself. Sound general quarters across all defensive platforms. Activate all reserve fleets. Send the signal to Project Titan. Klaxons wailed across Earth's orbital space. The home defense fleet had been building for 2 years, using every resource of humanity's homeworld. Thousands of defense satellites, hundreds of orbital fortresses, and 3 massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything humanity had built before. The Council Strike Force, led by War Master Dronthus himself, emerged from dimensional fold space with the confidence of inevitable victory. They had crushed human resistance at every turn. Now they would deliver the killing blow to humanity's heart. Scan local space, Dronthus commanded. He was an old warrior, his carapace scarred from a dozen campaigns. I want to know what defenses they have prepared. The answer came back within minutes, and even Dronthus felt a moment of shock. The humans had turned their entire orbital space into a fortress. Thousands upon thousands of weapons platforms, defensive stations that bristled with guns, and 3 enormous vessels that could only be capital ships. When did they build all this? His tactical officer asked, bewildered. While we were fighting their colonies, they were building here, Dronthus realized. They sacrificed the outer systems to buy time. How many humans live on that world? Approximately 9 billion, War Master. 9 billion. Every one of them had apparently been working to prepare for this battle. Dronthus had seen many defended worlds in his career, but never anything like this. All vessels, advance formation. Target the largest defensive platforms first. Once we establish orbital supremacy, we will force their surrender. The Battle of Earth began. The Council fleet advanced and met a wall of fire. Thousands of defense platforms opened up simultaneously. Kinetic rounds, missiles, even crude chemical lasers all converged on the advancing fleet. Council shields lit up like stars as they absorbed the incoming fire. But there was so much fire. The sheer volume of it was overwhelming. Shields that could normally withstand sustained assault began to flicker and fail under the relentless barrage. Return fire, Dronthus ordered. Destroy those platforms. Council plasma lances speared through space, destroying platform after platform. Each shot was perfectly aimed, each hit devastating. But for every platform destroyed, 10 more continued firing. The humans had built redundancy upon redundancy. Then the human fleet engaged. Admiral Chen led the counterattack personally. The Defiance and its sister ships, the Vengeance and the Retribution, were monsters of war. Each vessel was 3 kilometers long, armored with meters of composite metal, and armed with weapons that could crack moons. They were not elegant. They were not beautiful. They were floating fortresses built for one purpose: to kill. The battle raged for 3 days. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. Ships exploded like fireworks. Debris fields expanded. Millions died on both sides. Council vessels, designed for precision warfare, found themselves in a brutal slugging match where their technological superiority mattered less than raw firepower and endurance. The humans simply would not stop fighting. On the 3rd day, with 30 of his ships destroyed and the rest damaged, with human reinforcements still arriving from the outer system, War Master Dronthus made a decision that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. All ships withdraw. We're pulling back. It was the first time in 10,000 years that a Council fleet had retreated from battle. The humans did not pursue. They could not. Half their defense platforms were destroyed. The Vengeance was crippled. Chen's own ship had taken damage that would require months to repair. But they had won. Earth was saved. In the Council Citadel, Archon Velthor received War Master Dronthus's report in silence. Around him, his advisors shuffled nervously. The Council had lost the Battle of Earth. More importantly, they had lost the aura of invincibility that had maintained their rule for millennia. Show me the analysis, Velthor commanded. A holographic display appeared, showing projected outcomes. The analysts had been studying captured human data and making projections. What they found was terrifying. Humanity achieved spaceflight 127 years ago, the chief analyst explained. In that time, they have colonized 70 systems and built an industrial base that approaches parity with species that have had millennia to develop. If current trends continue, humanity will match our production capacity within 10 years. Within a century, they will surpass it. How is that possible? Demanded Representative Shrix. They breed faster than any species we have encountered, the analyst continued. They mature faster. They innovate faster. Most importantly, they mobilize their entire civilization for war in a way we have never seen. Every human, from child to elder, contributes to their war effort. Their entire species has become a military-industrial machine. Then we must destroy them completely, Velthor said, before they become too powerful to stop. That would require committing our entire fleet, another advisor warned. It would leave all our other borders undefended. Our client species might see this as an opportunity to rebel. Let them try, Velthor said coldly. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. The Council's empire was built on the perception of absolute power. That perception was cracking. In a small research facility on the Council citadel, a scientist named Krell worked late into the night. Krell was Varan, one of the client species that had served the Council for centuries. His people had once been independent, but the Council had brought them to heel long ago. He studied the human data that the Council had captured. Their technology, their tactics, their history. What he found fascinated him. The humans had fought hundreds of wars among themselves. They had nearly destroyed their own world multiple times, yet they had survived and grown stronger. They understood war in a way the Council had forgotten after millennia of unchallenged supremacy. Krell thought of his own people, who had once fought against Council rule and lost. He thought of the dozens of other client species who lived under Council authority. Then he thought of the humans who had looked at Council power and said no. He made a decision. He began copying files carefully, secretly. Human tactical data, Council weakness assessments, battle recordings, everything that might help the humans. Then he sent a message, encrypted and routed through back channels to human space. It contained 2 words, keep fighting, because Krell had realized something that the Council had not yet understood. Every battle the humans fought, every stand they made, every refusal to surrender was proving to the galaxy that the Council was not invincible. And if the Council could bleed, it could die. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen stood in front of a memorial wall. On it were engraved the names of every human who had died in the war. The wall was already kilometers long and growing every day. We can't keep this up forever, her second-in-command said quietly. The casualties, the resources, the sheer exhaustion. Even if we're winning, we're being bled dry. I know, Chen said, but we just have to hold on longer than they can. They're fighting to maintain their empire. We're fighting for our survival. One of those motivations is stronger than the other. And if we're wrong? If they have more endurance than we think? Chen looked at the names on the wall. 3,000 from Proxima Station, 2 million from New Hebrides, hundreds of thousands more from the battles that followed. Then we go down fighting, she said simply, because the alternative is slavery or extinction. And humanity doesn't accept either. In the Council citadel, Archon Velthor stood before a locked vault that had not been opened in 5,000 years. Inside was a weapon so terrible that its use had been banned by unanimous Council decree, the Null Cascade. It was a weapon that could sterilize an entire world, destroying all organic life while leaving the infrastructure intact. The perfect weapon for removing an infestation of intelligent life that had grown too dangerous. The Council had used it once, long ago, against a species that had threatened their rule. The guilt had led to the ban, but desperate times required desperate measures. We will need a unanimous vote to authorize its use, Velthor's advisor warned. Then we will get a unanimous vote, Velthor replied, because the alternative is watching our entire galactic order collapse. The war had reached its critical phase. The Council chamber was silent as Archon Velthor presented his proposal. All 12 representatives were present, their faces showing various degrees of shock and horror at what was being suggested. The Null Cascade has been banned for 5,000 years, Representative Mira said, her wings trembling. We swore never to use such a weapon again. The guilt of its last use nearly tore the Council apart. That was before we faced an existential threat, Velthor countered. He activated a holographic display showing projections of human expansion. Look at these numbers. In 2 years of war, humanity has not weakened. They have grown stronger. They replace losses faster than we can inflict them. Their industrial capacity increases while ours depletes. If we do not act now decisively, they will eventually overwhelm us. You speak of genocide, said Ambassador Tyleth quietly. The complete extermination of an intelligent species. I speak of survival, Velthor snapped. The humans have proven they will never submit to Council authority. They fight with a savagery we cannot match and a determination we cannot break. Every day they exist, they grow more dangerous. Every battle we fight, More client species see that the Council can bleed. Already we have detected unrest on 6 client worlds. The humans are not just fighting us, they are inspiring rebellion across our entire domain. War Master Dronthus, his carapace still bearing scars from the Battle of Earth, spoke up. I have fought them. I have seen what they are capable of. The Archon is correct. We cannot defeat them through conventional warfare. Our military is designed for precision and control. Theirs is designed for total destruction. We are fighting a war of attrition against a species that breeds faster and builds faster than we do. The mathematics are clear. So we commit genocide to preserve our comfort? Mira challenged. To maintain an empire built on fear? To preserve order, Belthor corrected. For 10,000 years the Council has maintained peace across this galaxy. Yes, we rule. Yes, we enforce our will. But under our guidance hundreds of species coexist peacefully. The alternative is chaos. Endless war between species with no one to maintain balance. The humans have proven they cannot be part of that order. Therefore they must be removed. The debate continued for hours, but in the end fear won. The Council had built its power on being the strongest force in the galaxy. The humans had shaken that foundation. The vote was called 12 hands, claws, tentacles, and appendages rose. Unanimous as it had been when they declared war. The null cascade was authorized, but the Council had forgotten something important. Empires built on fear are riddled with those who hate that fear. Krell the Varan scientist had been monitoring Council communications since his first message to humanity. When he learned of the null cascade authorization, he acted immediately. He copied every file he could access about the weapon, its location, its activation codes, its vulnerabilities. Then he sent one final transmission to human space. It would cost him his life. Council security would trace the message and find him. But some things were worth dying for. The message reached Earth's intelligence services within hours. Admiral Chen was woken from her first real sleep in days to receive the briefing. It's legitimate, the intelligence officer confirmed. We've verified the source and cross-referenced with our own intel. The Council has a superweapon at their citadel. If activated, it will destroy all organic life on every human world simultaneously. How long do we have? Unknown. But our source indicates the authorization just came through. It could be hours or days before they activate it. Chen sat in silence for a long moment. Then she activated her command channel. Get me a direct link to Earth Defense Command, Colonial Command, and Fleet Operations. Authorization Chen Alpha 7. Priority Alpha. Within minutes she was addressing the entire human military leadership. The Council plans to exterminate us, she said bluntly. They have a weapon that can sterilize all our worlds at once. We have one chance to stop them. We have to strike at their citadel before they can activate the weapon. That's suicide, someone said. The citadel is in the heart of Council space, surrounded by defense fleets. We'd never make it. Probably not, Chen agreed. But what choice do we have? Surrender? Wait for them to kill us all? I'd rather die fighting than wait for the executioner. What's your plan? Asked Admiral Cortez. We take every FTL-capable warship we have, we push our jump drives beyond safety limits, and we jump directly into their home system. We hit the citadel before they know we're coming. We destroy that weapon and we make them bleed for trying to genocide us. You're talking about sending our entire fleet on a one-way mission, Cortez said. I'm talking about humanity's last chance, Chen replied. Who's with me? The response was immediate. From every colony, from every military unit, from every corner of human space, we're with you. Operation Checkmate began immediately. Every human warship that could make the journey was recalled. Crews volunteered by the thousands, understanding this was likely a suicide mission. Ships were retrofitted with overcharged jump drives that could make the journey to Council space, but would likely burn out in the process. 3 days later, a fleet of 200 human warships, representing the entirety of humanity's mobile military force, gathered at a staging point in deep space. Admiral Chen addressed them from the Defiance. I won't lie to you, she said. Most of us won't come back. The Council Citadel is the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. But if we succeed, we save every human world. We save 9 billion people on Earth. We save our children and our future. They declared war on us thinking we would be easy to crush. Let's show them what happens when you try to genocide humanity. The fleet jumped. 200 human warships forced their engines beyond design specifications. The journey normally took weeks. They covered it in hours, their jump drives screaming, reality twisting around them. 30 ships exploded mid-jump, their drives unable to handle the stress. 20 more emerged from FTL, too damaged to continue. 150 human warships materialized in Council home space. Directly above the Obsidian Citadel, the Council's defense fleets were scattered across the galaxy, fighting human colonies and maintaining order among restive client species. Only a minimal defense force remained at the Citadel. They had never imagined anyone would be crazy enough to attack the heart of Council power. They had underestimated human desperation and human fury. All ships, attack, Chen ordered. Target the Citadel. Don't stop until it's destroyed or we're dead. The battle was apocalyptic. Council defense stations opened fire. The remaining defense fleet, 40 ships, rushed to intercept. But the humans had surprise and desperation on their side. They swarmed the Citadel like angry hornets, ignoring the defense fleet, focusing everything on the station. Kinetic rounds hammered ancient shields. Missiles streaked through the black. Human ships, engines dead and hulls breaching, used their last moments to crash into the Citadel's surface. Inside the Citadel, Archon Velthor watched the impossible happen. Humans were attacking the Council's home. Humans were destroying the symbol of galactic order. His world, so carefully constructed over millennia, was coming apart. Activate the null cascade, he ordered. Kill them all! But the weapon required time to charge, and the humans were not giving them that time. Admiral Chen, on the Defiance with engines dead and half her crew dead, saw the null cascade installation through her view screen. It was a massive structure on the Citadel's surface, alien and terrible. Ramming speed, she ordered quietly. All remaining power to forward shields. Her crew, those who were left, strapped in without complaint. They knew what was coming. The Defiance, humanity's greatest warship, accelerated toward the Citadel one last time. Council fire tore through its armor. Whole sections exploded, but it kept coming. For Proxima, Chen said softly. For New Hebrides. For Earth. For humanity. The Defiance hit the Citadel at 1 kilometer per second. The impact was visible from orbit. The null cascade installation and a significant portion of the Citadel simply ceased to exist. Archon Velthor felt the station shudder. Alarms wailed. The Citadel, home of Council power for 10,000 years, began breaking apart. Evacuate, he ordered numbly. All personnel evacuate. As his escape pod launched, Velthor looked back at the dying Citadel. At the human warships still fighting, still destroying even in their death throes. He had declared war on these creatures, thinking them primitive and easy to crush. He had been so terribly wrong. 6 months later, the Treaty of Proxima was signed aboard a neutral station. The Galactic Council, humbled and weakened, recognized humanity as an independent sovereign power with full territorial rights and representation. More significantly, the treaty established the Galactic Assembly, a democratic body where all species, Council and client alike, would have representation. The age of Council absolute rule was over. Archon Velthor, retired to a distant colony world, watched the first assembly session on a view screen. He saw humans sitting among the galactic community as equals. He saw client species inspired by humanity's resistance, demanding and receiving their own rights. The Council had declared war to maintain their supremacy, to preserve their perfect order. Instead, they had shattered it beyond repair.